Welcome to episode 252 of the Shared Security Show. And joining me this week is co host Scott Wright, who happens to be from the great country of Canada.
Yes, in case anybody didn't know that by now. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did this once before, Scott, but I've got a few Canadian jokes for you.
Oh, awesome. We always like to be made fun of course.
Yes. Well, not all the time, but especially from your neighbors here in the United States. But because you guys make fun of us all the time.
Yeah,
so.
we can take a joke.
Okay, great. Well, here's a few for you. So, what is the name of the place in Canada that can instantly take you to Brazil?
Ooh, Saskatoon?
No,
Oh.
no, I'm sorry. The name of the place is Ontario.
Ontario. That's where I am. I didn't
It
even know I
is.
could. How do I get there from here?
Take an airplane, Scott.
Oh, well, yeah. What a letdown.
Here's another one for you, Scott.
Okay.
So, what are the two seasons predominantly seen in Canada?
Summer and winter?
You're close. It's just winter and then July.
Winter and then July. That's probably better. Yeah, more accurate.
Yeah. You like that? I totally forgot about my crowd laughing.
Oh yeah.
That's I gotta add that.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah. Well, here's the last one for you. So, how do Canadians take care of their hair, Scott?
I don't know, Tom. How do Canadians take care of their hair?
They take care of their hair by using mousse.
Moose, yeah.
Not a moose.
Just moose. Just using moose. Yes. Those are awesome jokes. Thanks for that, Tom. And next time I'll be doing jokes about people from Cleveland. So
please do. I think we call those dad jokes here. So
all right.
Let's move on. So we've got some great topics today. And first we wanted to start with Mastodon. What's going on with Mastodon?
Yeah, it's the rage.
It is the rage for, I think, a lot of different reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I know we'll get to some of those things in, I think, our Aware Much segment.
Yeah, we'll talk about a little bit about that.
Twitter. But I did want to bring this up because I'm seeing a large movement of people leaving Twitter, or as like they call it on Mastodon, the Bird app.
The Bird app. It took me a while to figure out what's the Bird app. Oh,
wait, what's the Bird app? Yes, and people are migrating.
It's a mass migration of Mastodonians.
It is a mass migration. Specifically talking about the InfoSec Twitter or the InfoSec community, just over the last week or so since Elon Musk had started firing everybody and making some very, let's just say, interesting changes to the platform, which we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to talk about Mastodon because a lot of people now are starting to use this as their new replacement for Twitter. And I wouldn't say it's a full replacement for Twitter.
Yeah.
It's pretty close. It feels the same, but there are some very distinct differences that I wanted to call out, and then also talk a little bit about some of the privacy and security concerns that I think everyone needs to be aware of with using this. I can't say it's a new social network. It's been around for a while.
Actually, I want to raise a point of order here, or at least just talk about something.
Yes, please do.
I think it was around 2016, maybe, when Mastodon was created. And the reason I remember that is I remember bringing it up to you either before a show or during a show that we were recording going, what about this new Mastodon thing? You know, it's like an alternative to Twitter. And Tom and Kevin going, yeah, it's another one of those things.
Nothing's going to ever happen with that.
Well, it took 6 years, but
it did.
I've been redeemed.
Yes, you have. Well, congratulations on that, by the way. That's pretty.
Canadians can be pretty astute sometimes.
Yeah, you guys can. You totally can. So the big difference with Mastodon is that it's federated. So what that means is that anybody can create an instance, is what it's called, or a server, right? And then you can create your own set of rules for that server, and then it can be federated in what is called the Fediverse, not Metaverse, but the Fediverse. with other servers that are also federated. So the concept is that it basically develops communities or smaller communities, even though I'd say some of those communities, like the InfoSec community, is no longer a small community.
Mm-hmm.
It is large now.
Yeah.
There are many different groups. I happen to be part of infosec.exchange,
Right. As am I.
which is one of, I think, several different infosec or cybersecurity related
Mm-hmm.
instances that are out there. But what's cool about it is that you can still see other toots. Now, they're not called tweets, they're called toots.
Nice.
uh, on these other federated servers, as long as your server is essentially allowing those servers to communicate
Yeah.
with that instance.
And it's all sort of thanks to a really nice standard that people have put together. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it was basically how social is supposed to social servers are supposed to talk to each other, in a civilized way, and to just as you said, become federated. So it makes it so that there is no one entity that actually owns it, which is kind of cool.
Right. So that means that there's no ads, there is no algorithms like Twitter is known for, right? Over the
Yeah, I
years, it's
think
a
we might want to mention this
chronological.
because a lot of people don't necessarily realize, but the tweets that you see on Twitter are not necessarily in order chronologically. They decide what they think you want to see.
Yeah. Now there is a way to get chronological tweets on Twitter. I think you have to either use a different app or there's maybe a configuration setting, but the default I do know, if you use say the web app or the main Twitter app that you get in like the App Store, it now shows you the algorithm version, right, which is tailoring those tweets to you. And that's been problematic, right? Because a lot of people have complained over the years that they're not seeing people that they followed, or they're seeing maybe more negative type of tweets and other things going on in the world that maybe they don't really care about. So Mastodon is chronological. And I tooted to someone the other day, literally saying this feels like it's 2008, like all over again, when Twitter first came out,
Yeah, the
and it
old
was,
pure Twitter.
yeah, kind of refreshing
It is really. I
actually.
really enjoyed it. I just joined on last Saturday or something, and thanks to an invitation from Tom. You don't have to be invited. You can actually, I think,
Right.
just go set up, but you can invite people. And so, yeah, when I joined the infosec.exchange server, it was very welcoming and nice to sort of see, pretty, as I said, pure, discussions. Right? There's not a lot of flaming, not a lot of, well, certainly no ads. There are a few little quirks about it. I think I find it's hard to find threads sometimes, right? When you see
Yeah.
somebody post something and then where did that come from? How do you find the actual originating thing? So they have a bit of work, I think, maybe on the algorithm to do that stuff. But otherwise, I think it's really good.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, one of the things I did want to mention, I just discovered this myself, but we've talked about Truth Social, which is the social network that Donald Trump set
Yes,
up. That is actually using Mastodon code
interesting.
um,
So it's got
for
the same
their
protocol, so you could probably include it if you
correct,
wanted to, right?
if they wanted to, but it is not part of the Fediverse
Right,
at
right.
all, probably for many reasons. But I just thought that was an interesting kind of
Mm-hmm.
a tidbit that I discovered.
Yeah, that is cool.
But we do want to talk about some of the security things I wanted to mention, and we'll link in the show notes a really great article from Graham Cluley, who is a podcaster. He runs Smashing Security. He's one of the hosts. Great podcast, by the way. We recommend checking out. But he put together a post and covers kind of the basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously create a secure password, enable two-factor
Yep.
authentication, because now this is kind of, new,
Yeah.
but newer, but for the attackers, right? It's now they're seeing a mass amount of people go to it. So
Yep.
there's already been some interesting vulnerabilities that have been disclosed, which, you got to have two-factor authentication. That's really important. So
Yep.
the other thing to mention is like direct messages are really not direct messages.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and they can actually be pretty dangerous because they're based on permission. So essentially you just change who you want to send your message to, and it'll only send the message to them directly. But if you happen to mention somebody else in that thread or that conversation, it will bring that person in to that
Not good for
conversation.
gossip.
No, not good for gossip. Not good if you're talking about maybe someone, I don't know, stalking you or
Yeah.
something like that. So the advice, obviously, if you want to send anything sensitive or communicate privately to somebody, do it outside of Mastodon. Do it on Signal, right? Like we always talk about, or call them on the phone or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
And then the other thing to mention, and Scott, you had mentioned this about verification.
Yes. Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up because, like on my profile, I actually put a little icon next to my name with the verified blue check from. It's just an
You're tricking people
emoticon.
into thinking you're verified?
Yeah, well, everybody's doing it, right? Because you could put any kind of emoticon at the end of
Right.
your name.
Right.
That's just some of the cool features of it. But there is actually a way to verify you, or at least verify that a website belongs to you and is connected to your profile. So there's an actual like a link that you can put into the header of like say your personal blog or your web page that you control, and that's a link back to your Mastodon profile.
Mm-hmm.
And that will essentially put a little green checkbox on your profile page that has been verified by you, that you in fact own that site and own that profile.
That's cool. Yeah, I haven't gotten around to doing that myself. Have you done that verification as well, or are
Yes.
you just
Yep.
tricking people?
No, I've done that
Okay, yeah.
with the podcast, sharedsecurity.net, actually.
But you have
So
to have something where you have control of the
correct.
HTML, right? So
Yes.
you can't just say, "Here's my LinkedIn profile and it's verified." You have to has to be above.
Yep.
So yeah, I think
Yep.
I can handle that. I can access my website.
Yep. Now there are people that are doing it with like GitHub and some other third-party apps that I think allow you control of some of that information. So there are some ways to do that with a third-party site, but
Yep.
yeah. So
Yep.
that's kind of their verification. Obviously, that's not a great thing for non-technical people.
Yeah, it's kind of like
To figure
Android,
out.
right? There's so many settings and overwhelming things that you got to get somebody to help you set it up initially, and yeah.
So that's kind of the basic tips that we would recommend if you're deciding to go on to Mastodon, and we are on there as the podcast. I'm on there. Scott is, Kevin.
Yep.
So please give us a follow. Send us some toots, if you will, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yes, sir.
So with that, Scott, let's jump into our favorite segment of the week, which is Aware Much.
Yes. So for the past few weeks, people probably heard a little too much about the bird site or Twitter, as some people used to call it. But as we just talked about, there are people moving to this site called Mastodon, or the network of sites. And from a user's point of view, it's maybe about the moderation of hate speech. That became a big issue. People just are sick of not having stuff filtered or moderated. But for advertisers, there's actually a different viewpoint, and that is, a lot of our users might be aware of the problem of verified accounts that we just talked about, right? If it might be amusing that you can see people, imitating Pepsi saying Coke is better. I don't know if you saw that one, but that's just an example, right? There's many of them. But for big brands, like Eli Lilly and others,
huge.
there are people impersonating them and posting things that are damaging the value of the company's shares, and that's really serious. So it's causing a lot of advertisers to leave, and that's certainly going to change the bottom line. And I'm not sure what Elon Musk's end goal is. Somebody, I think, in Mastodon posted a thing like, if I was going to try to destroy Twitter, I think I'd do everything that Elon Musk is doing.
He's doing a great job.
It's a debate that's worth having, right? So it's causing a lot of advertisers to leave. But the bottom line is, if you can have impersonation on any platform, then people are not going to like it. It's going to cause some real problems. And if you're a user, you really want to make sure that you know who's actually posting something before you go
Yeah.
into a rant or reply to them and stuff like that. So there are examples recently where somebody impersonated Elon Musk and said weird stuff, and other people replied back, "Are you serious?" And it's even hard to tell whether the replies are serious or not because everybody's kind of confused at that point. So anyway, that's the tip. Just make sure you know who's actually posting stuff before you reply to it, and keep an eye on what's going down with the bird site. So,
Yeah. So
any thoughts on that, Tom?
yeah, I would add just, this is all because of he's now charging $8 a month for the blue verified check mark.
Right.
And before Elon took over, the blue check mark actually had a vetting process that only certain people, like celebrities and
Yes.
people with like over 100,000 followers or something like that, could get this registered blue check mark to verify. So they went through extra vetting. They probably uploaded a driver's license or something like that to verify they are who they say they are on Twitter. And now he's charging $8 a month, and there's no vetting process. You're just paying for the check mark. And this is why all these impersonators are
Yeah.
just paying $8
Yeah.
and they can be anybody they want
And it
with a
caused
fake
so
account.
much trouble that they've actually discontinued it
They've,
for a
they've
while.
stopped it
They
for
tried to
now.
reintroduce some form of
It's a
verification
mess.
for people that have been legacy, and then that didn't work, and just a big mess, right?
Total mess.
So this installment of Aware Much has been brought to you by ClickArmor, the security awareness training platform that brings you better outcomes faster. That's better engagement, better retention, better protection, and risk management. You might have heard me bashing recently the live phishing simulations during Security Awareness Month. I was having some fun with that, and I think a lot of people actually responded well to it, saying, "Yeah, I totally agree." But I threatened to do a rant every week on the show here, but I'm not going to do that. I've calmed down. Yeah. But actually, I'm putting together an optimized phishing simulation program that leverages my years of experience of doing simulations on thousands of employees. So if you think you need live simulations, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you want to get better value out of them, let me know. Go to clickarmor.ca and sign up for a free trial. We'll do a security awareness optimization, including live phishing simulations, in a way that you may be surprised is not as hard or expensive as you might have thought. It's actually not that hard to meet compliance requirements with phishing simulations without getting too fancy. But I think that's the problem. Sometimes people just go a little too far and try and get too cute, try and do too many. We've had people say, we were doing them every 6 months and that didn't give us good results. So now then we did phishing simulations every quarter and the results still didn't improve. So we started doing them monthly, and you can see where this is going, right? It's not getting any better. So there's a trick to it. So go to clickarmor.ca and we'll help you figure that out.
So our last story of the week is about Google, the big Google privacy settlement. So Google is going to pay a whopping $392 million to 40 states here in the US in the largest privacy settlement ever. So
Wow.
That's a big one.
That is
even though I'd argue $391 million is probably chump change for someone like Google.
It's only 10 million a state.
Yeah, I mean, come
$1
on.
a person.
Right. And I bring this up because, I mean, it is significant, right? Especially from a settlement perspective. And this goes back to 2018, which I believe we even talked about this on the show, where there was a setting that you could enable in your Google privacy settings to not share your location data with Google. And some security researchers found out that setting did nothing.
Yeah, it was ignored.
Basically ignored. And so they were, lawsuits and everything else came out, a class action lawsuit, all of that. And now finally they're being held account for that. But I bring it up too because this is happening to other tech companies. Recently, Apple, there was news just came out that there's now a new lawsuit that is over their data collection practices with their first party apps. So apps like the Mail app, the Stock app, Podcast app, the things that are like Apple apps, right, on your iPhone. They are also collecting user data, even though if you disable the setting to turn off like iPhone
Location
analytics,
services,
essentially,
or
all of that.
yeah.
The Apple apps themselves are ignoring those settings, according to some security researchers. So I just bring this up because you can't always trust the operating systems of the big tech companies, right? Like, people are, we can't always say that they're taking our data privacy seriously when now twice we're seeing this with big tech companies.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see if the, whatever settlement or judgment there is on the Apple one, if it's as big as the Google one. My feeling is it probably won't be, because I don't think, I mean, it depends on what was actually exposed in the Google one that is being discussed, but I don't think that Apple really collects as much data as Google does overall. Their motivation is more, they're getting paid to do stuff, and Google makes their money from collecting data. So I'd expect it to be a little smaller for Apple.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, in general, Apple has taken a better stance on user privacy. In fact, it's a little disappointing to actually see this from Apple,
it is.
given their reputation.
It's too bad Kevin's not here. I'm sure he'd have an opinion too.
Yeah, he would rant all about Apple, because he's on Android now. So,
Yeah. All right.
So I think that's all we have time for this week, Scott. But Kevin is unavailable, as you all know.
Yes, we're missing his warmth.
We are missing his warmth and his wonderful conversations and his rants. But he will be back next week, and yeah. So follow us on Mastodon.
Yes, sir. I'm no longer. I was street sec on Twitter for 12 years or whatever. I still am, but on Mastodon, I decided to come out and be myself. So just at Scott Wright at dot exchange, right?
Infosec.exchange. Yep, that's right. We'll have links to all that in the show notes. So, all right. Well, till next time, we'll speak to all of you again next week. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, hit that like and subscribe button. To catch all the latest from the show, visit our website, sharedsecurity.net. Follow us on Twitter at SharedSec, and join our Reddit community on the Shared Security Show subreddit.